Yeah, no, that's a great observation. And, again, when you look at kind of how the threat landscape has evolved over the last 4 or 5 years and, the cost benefit analysis, like people who have the current, and one of the points that Beyond Identity always makes is that legacy MFA is not good enough. Legacy solutions are good enough because the landscape has changed. And if you haven't been popped, it's not because you're good, it's probably because you haven't been targeted. And the whole cost benefit analysis for some of those APTs has radically changed. It's that yeah, that landscape has completely changed. And then you layer on AI on top of that. And it accelerates the scope, whether it's malware as a service, phishing as a service. You layer on AI, and then all of a sudden your threat landscape. Let's put aside the innovative attacks and the new enablement attacks like deepfakes, but just on top of the legacy stuff, the scope and scale just explodes and you can't defend. And then, AI is going to augment products and everybody just puts AI stamp on their product, just like, back in the day, you had a Windows certified hard drive and you're like, what does that even mean? Well, it's Windows certified. But so there are a lot of products out there. People have to be careful when they're stamped with AI. So there's the augmentation part, and there's a lot of value that can be added there. But then on the other side, you have a whole new category of security that needs to be figured out because all these companies, ourselves included, they're trying to figure out how to use AI internally, and it's going to explode the use of information. Information that otherwise wasn't accessible or used within the organization is now being exposed to these LLMs, and we've spent all this time kind of as a security engineer trying to make sure that the data is anonymized and you can't de-anonymize it. And we patted ourselves on the back, right? Done, figured it out. And now we put an LLM in front of it. And the LLM itself is de-anonymizing the data. Because when you ask it questions, you don't really know how it's going to answer it. You're getting all kinds of data leaks and privacy violations. It's kind of crazy. And then just the fundamental architecture with RAGs and daisy chained LLMs, it needs a whole new authentication. And Beyond Identity feels it has a position there for sure. But there's things called pre-inference ABAC, which is you come in and before you actually execute the prompt, you have to map it to the policy domain, map that to annotated data to make sure you restrict the data. You pull that, you put it into the LLM. So there's all kinds of stuff that's radically changed. And it's kind of exciting. And I think there's going to be a ton of opportunities, again, for security, cybersecurity, people in cybersecurity are going to be front and center.
Yeah, people ask me if I'm worried about AI taking my job, and I'm sitting here like, no, no, AI doesn't augment, but it 10x's me, right? Like you really have to use it. I'm getting my PhD right now, and I mean, don't congratulate me yet until I actually get it. It's
Kudos to you. Go ahead.
it's very difficult. It's extremely difficult. It's probably 10 times more difficult than I expected going into it, but I think the reward at the end will be worth it for sure. I'm getting my PhD. I'm studying deploying zero trust frameworks on communication satellites with the sole purpose of preparing them for post quantum encryption. Because really, like that's where everything is going. That's where like the next major war will start. Right, it's going to start in space long before it starts on the ground. Because how else are adversarial militaries going to intercept communications and hack a country, right? Like you would start with the satellite, really. But in that, right, I'm using Grok heavily, right? And the whole purpose is because when I started my research, I was using Google to try and find scholarly articles that support my research in different ways, and it was very difficult to find just reliable sources, material that I would actually be able to use, anything like that. I mean, it was just very impossible, basically. So I went over to Chat, started using that a bit. It definitely provided me more value, but it wasn't able to go deeper than what the text was giving me. And this is, a year ago. And then I started comparing it with Grok, and Grok was able to give me like precise information. Hey, this document matters because of this table. They did this work. Here's the actual quote. Like, yeah, everything, so I've made requests of Grok before and it didn't give me, a result or whatever it might be. I think it's because I'm literally like hitting limits in the chat window of how much text is actually in that chat. But it gives me exactly what I'm looking for, like every single time, and I've had it, even like write me some code And I'm not a developer by any means, but it gets me 85% of the way there. And I'm smart enough to know what to adjust and how to plug in different things, right? So like it's literally being used to augment me in a way that would take me years to get through, you know?
Yeah, so a couple of things. One of the things, the biggest issue I have is doing research. And again, everything I do now is AI assisted. Certainly all the research and the synthesis of information, but it's attribution. That's a real problem because the LLM will, again, they call it hallucinations, but it's confident about everything, right? And so I won't really reference anything or use it unless I have strong attribution. No, that's pretty important. And then the other thing is, and I don't know really how this is going to shake out with AI, honestly, but I have a sense that people like yourself and systems engineers are going to be 10x, right? And I agree with that. The people can think from a system perspective. And then the individuals who can't bridge that gap and get to the system level and become engineers are going to really struggle because I've been using AI, Claude, Cursor, all kinds of AI tools, and it's actually writing kernel code that just works.
Wow.
I've done all the way from UI development, backend development, process productivity work, and the AI stuff just really works now. 2 or 3 years ago, it was still, what it was,
No.
but it actually, you can write serious code with it. And I think and then you'll see, I think the cybersecurity industry is really going to be impacted in a lot of different ways. There's a lot of stuff, and even as a CISO, there's a whole bunch of stuff with the proper agents and the proper security architecture internally. A lot of the stuff that I can do can be rapidly accelerated, right? So that I can focus on more important problems, whether it's compliance, it's automated compliance, regulation reviews, all that stuff. That stuff's going to be addressed very quickly. And then, threat surface analysis, attack surface analysis, incident response. Those are all areas where AI, I think, is really going to augment the security out.
Yeah, that is true. I feel like there's areas that it would be able to, replace a headcount potentially, right? But like with everything, typically you're going to find that the industry will cut, so severely because they think that they're going to save all this money with having this LLM or this AI thing and getting rid of all these people, and then they're slowly going to be adding them back in. Like if you look and if you actually follow it, Microsoft laid off like what 200,000 people in the past 18 months or something like that. I mean, like it's a significant amount of people that they laid off. Google did, the same thing, probably a different amount of people, obviously. Meta, everyone. And now they're hiring in other areas. They're hiring in other key areas because they're finding, oh, okay, we didn't need as many marketing people, to do this work. We can augment it with this other tool over here, and then we can divert those funds somewhere else.
That's right.
And so we're moving into a interesting place, but I kind of want to shift gears a bit and talk about beyond identity.
Absolutely.
So talk to me about, what beyond identity is, what the problem is in the marketplace that you're solving for, and how you're doing it.
Yeah. So, I mean, fundamentally, we're a secure access platform built from the ground up to address the new identity threat landscape. So we target identity threats directly and we design them out. We try to move as much from detection to prevention. And it kind of takes advantage. We do that by providing, if you look at Zero Trust, we provide phishing resistant MFA. We'll get into why I think most of the legacy phishing MFA we know is not good enough. But at its underpinnings, has phishing resistant MFA. It has strong device credentials and device posture, so it can do continuous authentication. We have a secure access layer and SSO. And now we're starting to expand into kind of collaboration tooling like Reality Check, which is basically targets deepfakes. And so the problem fundamentally was and it was a reimagining, it was from our founders and one of our founding CTO, Jason Casey, who very early on recognized, I think, long before I certainly did, and a lot of other people in the industry, that there was something radically changing. So where you had on the IT side, which was doing mostly productivity, and that's where all the identity solutions were. It was really about workflow management, orchestration, and most of the security threats were at the network layer. So all your engineers, that war between the red teams and the blue teams was all at the network layer. As we started to move out, everybody started using SaaS applications. Bring your own device. You saw an explosion. You saw an explosion of all of that layer, and it exposed an identity substrate was completely vulnerable. And then the IT guys who were awesome people, but they were focused on a workflow optimization and identity management, all of a sudden had an entirely new security problem.